For some people, the idea of 4 months on a remote island seems idyllic, but the reality of life largely cut off from the wider world may come as a shock to those prepared to take that chance. Catherine Grant travelled to Maatsuyker Island off Tasmania's south coast, where volunteer caretakers are helping maintain an important part of Australia's maritime history.
Pretty harsh environment here, you know, especially down where the quarters one is. Sort of stuck out in the middle of the ocean and gets a lot of wind and rain and everything.
Maatsuyker Island has a long history of testing the limits of human endurance.
It's a unique feeling that you get. The weather, it's erratic and it just gets to you.
For millennia, Aboriginal people paddled the treacherous 10 kilometres from Tasmania's mainland to hunt seals and mutton birds. With white settlement, seafarers were terrified by the southwest seas and demanded a light to guide them. In 1885, Captain West of the SS Port Adelaide raised his concerns with the Hobart Marine Board that vessels run a great risk, especially in the dark and tempestuous weather so prevalent on your coast.
Abel Tasman first sighted Maatsuyker Island. It was a place that gave the guiding light for the ships arriving to Tasmania. So really, as far as part of our history, it's really important.
For nearly 100 years, a succession of keepers were slaves to the light.
Well, it rules our life anyway, let's face it. I mean, it's like a living thing, really, isn't it? You come to life every night it bursts out in the brightness.
Eventually, the winds of change blew apart the lighthouse keeper's way of life. The cost of staffing and difficulties getting supplies to the island saw an automated beacon installed in the 1990s. It was the end of an era, and there were fears abandoning the island left it open to vandals. Instead, new life has breathed into Maatsuyker, volunteers stepping up to care for the island and its buildings.
And really in the first month we were overwhelmed with how much there was to do. You know, we were prepared in a way that we were told that yes, you would be doing a lot of mowing and you'd do a lot of this and that, but it was so much we were overwhelmed and we didn't know where to start. And I think the reality is you just get into a pattern and keep going.
For Queenslanders Leanne Stevens and Martin Stennett and their girls Alex and Olivia, a 4-month stint as caretakers on Maatsuyker seemed an idyllic interlude, but it's not been without its surprises.
I really enjoyed the extreme weather, but for me the thing that's taken me by surprise is how much we were used to all the conveniences and like for example having to shop for the next 4 months worth of food and knowing that you've got to prepare everything you eat. And there's no more takeaway shop trips, there's no more restaurants, and that's had a huge impact, you know. And we planned to the letter for the amount of food we would need for 4 months, and as we discussed before, it lasted 2.
Where once the keepers waited months for a boat for deliveries or assistance, helicopters now top up supplies and bring the mail. A classroom has been set up so the girls can keep up with their classmates back in Queensland.
Surprisingly, I found homeschooling is really a big task, and we initially thought it'd only take maybe 2 hours out of our day, and we found we're there till 3 o'clock, so we really are just doing a normal school day.
Maatsuyker continues its role as an important weather station. Detailed observations are made 3 times a day and relayed to the Meteorological Bureau in Hobart. The caretakers maintain the lightkeepers' quarters, but big jobs require an influx of volunteers and park staff for intensive working bees.
Plan to try and paint the 3 houses, and also the boys, the parks people have been doing the guttering, putting stainless steel guttering and downpipes and replacing all that, which was all basically rusted and blown away, all the guttering, so we weren't catching any water here.
Annette and Trevor Walsh have had 2 tours of duty as caretakers, winter and summer.
Just seeing the buildings restored to make them weatherproof so that in the future either our great-grandchildren or other people's children will be able to see what was here and it's, you know, basically as it was 20 years ago.
The buildings themselves, they've stood up, you know, remarkably well, and the lighthouse and everything, it's still, you know, perfect working order, even though the light's not there now.
But yeah, no, I just think it'd be a shame to see it just fall away into, disrepair and let go.
For Phil Duggan, a builder with more than 30 years' experience before joining the Parks and Wildlife Service, there's satisfaction in working on historic buildings.
It's really refreshing, and at the end of the day, you can sort of see what difference you've made to an old building. All these structures here are 120 years old, so it's really good at the end of the day, and say, yeah, that looks a lot better. We've made a big improvement.
Do you feel a real attachment to the place?
I think I have got an attachment to the place now. Yes. I don't really know why. It's something happens when you come down to Maatsuyker. You do get attached to it.
SHERYL Hamilton's caretaking prompted her family to write a children's book about the experience.
Evie and I were playing outside one day.
Maatsuyker is home to Australian and New Zealand fur seals, rare nesting sites of endangered soft-plumaged petrels, and has about 800,000 breeding pairs of short-tailed shearwaters, or mutton birds, the biggest colony in the southern hemisphere. It's escaped the feral invasion of other islands like Tasman or Macquarie.
Amazingly, despite the fact that there were lightkeepers had cats here, there were a lot of stock here in the past, but cats never established a wild population, despite the fact that there's always been boat transport to the island, especially in the early days of the lightkeeping. It's now mainly helicopter transport, but in all that time there were never rats established or mice, and so that's why the seabird population's amazing.
As well as its biological integrity, much of Maatsuyker's infrastructure remains in place, like the horse-drawn winches successively replaced by machinery.
The fact that they're together really helps us to piece the story together of the lightkeepers era, and just the hardship also that you think about how they brought all of their supplies onto the island, and they were very much reliant on the pieces of equipment that are in this shed. So yeah, I think it's really important, and really important to see the whole story together.
As winter draws close, the extra hands leave the island. Leanne, Martin and their girls have 2 more months to enjoy the solitude at the end of the earth, and there's a waiting list of keen volunteers to take their place.